The Lebanese government is pursuing direct negotiations with Israel to secure sovereignty and avoid being caught between Iranian and American interests. While Hezbollah's support is clearly shrinking, as Lebanese people blame the group for dragging the country into war on Iran's behalf, Israeli military operations in the south are destroying villages and livelihoods, making any future peace deal harder to achieve. Lebanon must present Washington with a compelling economic vision, linking the country to IMEC and Mediterranean connectivity projects to ensure U.S. backing and prevent any Iranian-brokered solution that would restore Tehran's grip on the country.
On Lebanon, what we are seeing is one important development is that the Lebanese government has decided to go into negotiations, direct negotiations with the Israelis. And I think that track is going to continue because the Lebanese government thinks that that's the way to kind of get into a solution where Lebanon's sovereignty is secured and guaranteed, and Lebanon is not back to be on the table of negotiations between the Iranians and the Americans. So that's the most important gain for the Lebanese government. They do understand the challenges because of this ceasefire, no ceasefire situation, where it is being declared that ceasefire is being extended, but at the same time, there are like operations, military operations going in the southern part of the country. And that is being understood kind of that Israel is saying that their aim is to stop, if you want, the threat that is coming from Hezbollah on its borders. And since the Lebanese government doesn't have a clear strategy on how to disarm Hezbollah, so Israel is going to continue taking things into their hands and doing the job. So, of course, that is not acceptable. And for Lebanon, Lebanon is saying that we are going into negotiations with the Israelis to find solutions to all problems. At the same time, disarming Hezbollah is a process, and we need to get the capacities to do that and the political umbrella to be able to do that. So these are the two issues that need to be seen, if you want, and so that Hezbollah is disarmed. There are decisions that have been taken by the government on disarming Hezbollah. So capacities are low. Definitely the Lebanese government cannot, or the Lebanese armed forces cannot respond to the disarmament of Hezbollah the way that Israel is doing. The Lebanese government or the Lebanese armed forces cannot go into villages and when they find the tunnels, blow up the whole village because they're blowing up the tunnels. They cannot do. That is unacceptable, and it's definitely unacceptable by all terms. Even when Israel is doing it, it's unacceptable. And and definitely the Lebanese government will not treat its cities, villages, people, land that way. So that's where the gap, I think, we're seeing between Israel is saying, I will take things into I'll do whatever I see fit, but it is kind of harming future solutions if we want to go beyond a security arrangement, because they are blowing up villages and destroying lands and livelihoods of people, which is making it even more difficult for people to go back to their land. And going back to your land is very important. So yes, for the ceasefire, yes, more importantly is to see these Lebanese people going back to their villages and lands, and under the pretext that no, we don't want Hezbollah fighters to go back, you cannot punish a whole village or a whole community from going back to their villages because there are Hezbollah operatives. For sure, there might be other mechanisms to put in place to avoid all of this happening. I think this is where there should be discussions, like direct discussions between the Lebanese and the Israelis, and this is what basically I believe it's happening. There is another round of meetings that will happen soon, which is like more of military to military, I guess, in the Pentagon. I think they would be putting a roadmap on how to dismantle the capacities of Hezbollah, but without destroying whole communities and villages and lands, because people need to go back to their villages. And I think this is a red line for the Lebanese government that had been mentioned many times. People will have to go back and people will reconstruct their villages. These are like very important points for the Lebanese government for anything to come later. The Lebanese government is not saying that we just want a security arrangement and stop there, but they're not as well developing any idea about what comes later, because I think it's conditional on how the security arrangement will end and conditional on people coming back to their villages. What Israel is doing in the south of Lebanon is not gaining popularity, definitely. It's not gaining like Israel popularity, and it's not, of course, bringing back support to Hezbollah, because Lebanese understand that what Israel is doing is a direct result of Hezbollah getting itself into this war and dragging the whole Lebanese into the war. And it was very clear that when they entered to the second support war, they said that it is because Khamenei was assassinated. So they themselves said it. So there is no gray zone there that now this is for Lebanon, or it was to support any Lebanese cause, etc. So that's very clear. But at the same time, so what the Israelis are doing, it's like they are really making it hard on Lebanon to accept any sort of a peace deal or a normalization deal. And that is where the Israelis need to understand that what they're doing is not helping their case if they think that they want to end up with a peace agreement or with a normalization agreement among Lebanese. This you won't see it. Lebanese are now saying yes for the negotiations, because we do want to see this an end to the military escalation and military action of Israel. But Israel is really, really not making the case for any improvement on a peace deal or on a normalization path. And that's it. But I think for Lebanon, for Hezbollah, it's very clear that the support is shrinking and shrinking. And if the support for Hezbollah is shrinking, it doesn't mean that it is increasing as a support to Israel. And same, if you're criticizing Israel, it doesn't mean that you are giving more support to Hezbollah. That's what is going on in the country. One other issue that I keep on saying is like it is very important for the Lebanese government. Yes, with the direct negotiations happening with the Israelis, but as well for the Lebanese government to make sure that they are pitching a whole idea to the Americans that would be more interesting to the Americans than any solution that the Iranians could put on the table for the Americans that will keep Lebanon under the control of the Iranians. That's very important. And this is where I think all these economic vision of the country and putting Lebanon part of the IMAC and part of the connectivity projects in the Mediterranean, in the Middle East, are very important for the Americans to keep supporting the Lebanese government and not take any possible solution or any possible idea that would be given by the Iranians to keep their control over Lebanon. That should be as well understood. And I think that the Lebanese government understands that as well, that they don't want to go back to any sort of a solution between the Iranians and the Americans that would put Lebanon back into the hands of the Iranians. And this is, I think, what is happening currently. And this is why the Lebanese government is looking into these negotiations as part of the Lebanese government negotiating on its faith by its own means and not being part of a 10-point solution presented by the Iranians to keep controlling Lebanon through Hezbollah.